Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Going to the gym can be discouraging, especially if you're putting in the work but barely seeing changes. But with Tonal, you can actually see your progress with every workout. Tonal provides the convenience of a full gym and the expertise of a personal trainer anytime at home with one sleek system. Designed to reduce your mental load, Tonal is the ultimate strength training system, helping you focus less on workout planning and more on getting results. No more second-guessing your technique. Tonal gives you real-time coaching cues to dial in your form and help you lift safely and effectively. After a quick assessment, Tonal sets the optimal weight for every move and adjusts in 1 pound increments as you get stronger, so you're always challenged. Tonal lets you choose from a variety of expert-led workouts, from strength to arrow hit to yoga and mobility to keep you coming back for more. For a limited time, go to Tonal.com to get $500 off your Tonal purchase, plus a free 4-year warranty. That's Tonal.com for $500 off, plus a free 4-year warranty. Tonal.com.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of your Bish Therapist podcast. I am your host, Melissa Reich, your Bish Therapist, a real-life therapist turned pop culture aficionado, serving clinical interpretations and hot takes on all things pop culture. And today, I am so excited to have my bestie, Caitlin Marshall, a.k.a. Besties by Caitlin, on social media with me to talk about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you. Yay. I'm so glad to be here with you. I know you and I sit and chit chat all the time. And yeah, I'm sure your listeners already know this about you, but you are such a fantastic friend. You're so empathetic and you always check in. I mean, I can't say enough good things about you. So I'm happy to be here.
And I paid her to say that, everybody. Thank you so much.
I need to up
your
my
check
price.
is in the mail. I've sent you a Venmo, my friend.
Just got it.
I was going to say check in the mail. What an old reference. Am I 100?
Well, you know, they still use it.
I know.
Hey, we still have Amazon, so we need it for something.
So the voice that you're hearing, and if you're watching this video on Patreon and YouTube, the beautiful face that you're seeing is my dear friend, Caitlin Marshall. Caitlin you are just, first of all, you have a gigantic following on Instagram, on TikTok. Your podcast is Besties by Bravo, but you're shifting that to match all your other social medias. So
Correct.
For now, if you want to catch up on some of this stuff, you can check out her podcast, Besties by Bravo. But I was on your podcast what feels like not that long ago, which probably means it was like several millenniums ago.
Yes. Time flies, whether you're having fun or not.
Exactly. Life don't care if we're having fun. They're just like, no, we're flying.
Yep.
So
pretty much.
It's so funny that we connected because I have been meaning to have you back on the pod. And I always, when I have people back, I want it to be something that authentically fits and makes a lot of sense for them. And I'm watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, just binging it, trying to take in all this information. And at the end of the episode, I see my girl, Caitlin Marshall, on my motherfucking TV. And I was like, no. I immediately texted you. I was like, girl, that is so sick. I was so happy and so proud of you.
Literally what she said.
Thank you. I was so happy for you.
You know, I'll tell you exactly how that was leading up to it, that I haven't talked about it a lot. So this is a little extra tea there.
Yay.
So I had maybe a month before the season was premiering, I had gotten a new phone and it had been 3 weeks, right? And I hadn't connected all my emails. And I suddenly realized, oh my God, one of my business emails, I haven't been accessing it. And so it's like 5 a.m. in the morning and I open it up and I see not 1, not 2, but maybe 4 emails from them over at Hulu. And I'm like, can we use your content? And I'm like, let me check this email. I am literally, because the Bravo fandom, I am going to be my little own private investigator. I'm looking the guy up on LinkedIn, making sure, I'm like, who's playing a joke on me right now?
Well, of course. You have to do due diligence because we do, for people who don't know, we get janky emails all the time.
Yes.
People who are, it's like either phishing or just like weird, spammy sort of stuff. And so you really do have to be really thorough with that. So
you do. Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, my brother is an attorney and I call my brother and he's like, okay, well, this is what the contract they sent you says. And I'm like, okay. So I call my talent agent. Thank you, Cassie, over at Wilhelmina. And I call her. I'm talking with her and she's like, all right, girl, just go for it. Because I was really anxious about it. And then because I
wonder why, Caitlin. Like, my God, that is such a big thing. Like, but please go on. Of course, of course you're nervous.
Yeah, because, I was trying to find out the exact context, but they could only say so much, of course. And so, it released at 10 p.m. that Wednesday night here where I live in Denver. And for me to stay up past 10 p.m., y'all, it was something serious.
Preach.
Yes, I am normally, if I am up past 10, it's because I can't stop reading in my Kindle. I'm sitting there and my husband Jay and I are both going, okay. And I'm like, oh my God, I think it's at the last episode because they had only contacted me like a month before. And so I'm kind of spiraling a little bit and I get to the end and I go, oh my God, because I was like, are they going to make me look like a moron? What's going to happen? Which I'm quite capable of doing on my own. Yeah.
Stop that. You are not. You're the best. But I get it. Listen, these are people who we know their tips and tricks and they manipulate and whatever. So I give you credit for even like facing that because I think I would have wanted to avoid, hide, and die and just be like, forget it. I can't do this.
I'm too nosy even when it comes to myself to hide and die from it. So I'm just nosy. I think all people who are into reality TV are nosy by nature. Like if you live in an apartment, okay, maybe I should make this more me living in an apartment. If I hear a loud conversation next door, you better believe I will break my neck pressing my ear up to that wall.
You got the glass, you're like, what are they talking about?
I'm just a nosy little bitch, okay? It's just how it is.
In the best of ways, yes.
Yes, and I do wish I had done my hair the day I made that video that they used, but you know what? It was all natural, and that's just going to have to be a hook in my craw for a while. And now I will do my hair every day.
So women, I'm just going to stop and say this. We're notoriously very hard on ourselves.
Yes.
And I just think that it's nonsense what you just said because I saw the video and I just thought, what an accomplishment, right?
Oh, well, thank you. Yes.
Chosen to be literally on the show that you're covering, number one. And number two, you looked gorgeous, sounded amazing. Your TikTok, your content is heads and tails, just so in another orbit that I can't even one day I remember we were chatting, we were texting and I was like, Caitlin, can you show me reduce screen recording of how you do your stuff? Bro, she sent me the screen. It was 75,000 steps and she did so fast. I was like, I can't do this. But you really are so wonderful.
Well, you are so kind. This is just going to be an entire episode of us complimenting each other. I want you to know that, friends. But that's just how it is when you like someone. But, something to be said about that is if there's anyone out there who does want to get started doing it, it took me a minute to get to that point to understand certain things in what that algorithm, in what my specific audience was looking for. I'm a long-winded person, but sometimes people are like, I am literally, it could be a mom getting her less than 3 minutes to sit on the toilet for a minute. And she's like, girl, get to the point. So, I had to learn certain things and make those adjustments and, learn what lighting is best and learn, exactly. And also it's about being kind to yourself when you flub the words. I've noticed a lot of people who are trying to get into it, they get really frustrated when they flub the words and it's like, no, it's okay. Just stop for a second or take a breath and start over. It's really something that you have to give yourself a lot of grace and realize there's a huge learning curve. But I have to say, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I really firmly believe it's something wonderful about social media is it opens the space for every single person who is interested in taking that space up. They can do it. So
absolutely,
that's what I love about that.
Yeah. And I, again, I think that, so what we're going to talk about today just to give people, a little bit of an idea, we're clearly talking about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, not only because, you were on the show, but because, featured on the show, I should say, because I don't want people to get confused and be like, where did I miss Caitlin in the cast?
Not in mom talk, honey. I don't think I would survive.
No, but in all sincerity, so you are a mom talk girly. So you are someone who has kind of been ingratiated on TikTok and that whole mom talk. Your videos are really far reaching, on social media and things like that. And so I thought, well, let's talk about what that's been like for you. And you've also had some really interesting behind the scenes engagements with some of these folks that, for me as a therapist, is always fascinating, because the one thing that I always talk about is that, reality TV, we're getting snippets of people's lives. We don't know them. It's just, we have to be really cautious about how much we think we know. But then when you interact with these people, for example, when Chase comes up in your comments, and, things like that.
Chase, Taylor, Jesse, they're all in the comment section. Yeah.
That's right. So, we're going to talk all about that today, about mom talk, what your experience is. But first, I'm going to give a little synopsis to the people who are listening, because I never want to assume that anyone knows exactly what we're talking about. I don't want to assume that everyone has binged this. I've watched it a couple of times, not the whole season, but certain episodes I've watched a couple of times, and I just thought, Melissa, we must get a life here.
Well, we have to assume other people have hobbies. This is our hobby/career. It's work. I am a career woman.
No, and you are crushing it for real. So
it's true.
I'll do a brief synopsis, which is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. If you have not seen it, it's a reality show on Hulu. The series follows a group of 8 Utah-based TikTok influencers known as Mom Talk. So for those who keep hearing me say it, if you haven't heard it, that's what it is, as they navigate the complexities of their personal and professional lives. So what's interesting is the first season was released in 2024 and became Hulu's most watched unscripted season premiere of 2024. I don't think anybody saw this show coming. Nobody saw it coming.
I had heard the rumblings, and something about when I know... I'm very big on following my gut instincts and picking up on certain things. And I noticed before the season premiered, TMZ was following the girls around coming out of their podcast appearances in LA. And I thought, TMZ, now they'll follow a lot of people. But I had a feeling, I was like, this is about to be a thing. I can just tell.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, and my gosh, you were right, because season 2 premiered on May 15th, and we're not that far out from May 15th, and I've obsessively watched every bit of information about the show.
It's a lot.
And so for people who don't know, in 2022, Utah influencer Taylor Frankie Paul went viral for revealing that she and her husband had been soft swinging with other Mormon couples. And so the series began months later as Taylor and her group of friends deal with the fallout from the scandal. And what I love about the show is it's such a fascinating, sociological experiment in terms of organized religion and friendship groups with females and Utah. And, there's all of these very interesting sociological pieces in it. And I think that's why I'm so glad you're here to talk about the different pieces, because it is hard to tease apart what is all of this. Give me some of your biggest, the things that are the biggest and most important to you that stick out the most to you in the work that you've done with this.
Well, I'll first start by saying, if anyone is a little bit confused, why Utah? What's the big deal with Utah? Why are these mommy influencers such a big thing there? Well, that's really where it started, was the family influencing, the mom influencing type of channels and type of pages, was because as these larger families grew within the Mormon church, well, you got to have more than just dad's income. And the moms, they were required, I shouldn't say required, I'll say expected to stay at home with the children. And so they would be doing a lot of things like MLMs. And then they started doing family vlogging and doing the influencing. That's why you will see so many Utah influencers. It's their way of bringing in that extra income without leaving the home and having someone else watch the kids. Now, when it comes to Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a book, Steph McNeil, who is an editor over there at Glamour. She wrote a book on, it's called, I have it somewhere here in my office. She sent it to me. It's Swipe Up for More. She released it back the same year it was Scandival stuff. So what, 2023?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. It's been a fever dream. It could have been 2020. I have no idea.
Right? The last few years have been wild, okay? Are we still on planet Earth? And so that book is really interesting for kind of getting a feel for how all of that started. Now, when it came to my involvement towards talking on Mom Talk, things like that, so I didn't really get into TikTok until, I'm going to say, I really started trying with it at the end of 2022. And so I hadn't been super privy to this whole Mom Talk thing. I tried to do it some during the pandemic because what else could we do once you were done binging Tiger King?
Literally.
Right? Flashbacks there. But, and when I had heard of Taylor, I mean, she was all over the news when the soft swinging scandal broke. And, I think that I wonder if they coined the term soft swinging at this point. But when I finally watched Mormon Wives for the first season last year, it was giving me a mix, like a perfect blend of the early aughts of Vanderpump Rules and early seasons of, I would say, like Real Housewives of New York, not Orange County, and it's because they're like, no, this is a business. They were a little bit more business minded. I mean, sorry, Vicky Gunvalson. I know you always were, but that being said,
Kodo insurance. I gotta go. I gotta work at Kodo.
Go to work. So, and when I was just looking up information on them, like trying to get their backstories, because each one of these women has a very loaded backstory. And when I discovered that Demi Ingman, her husband Brett, was originally married to Angie Harrington, who was the infamous friend from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And not only that, but she had known him since she was 9 years old, and he's significantly older than her. He's not going to love that word, but sorry, Brett, you are.
I mean, it's true. I mean, that's.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Going to the gym can be discouraging, especially if you're putting in the work but barely seeing changes. But with Tonal, you can actually see your progress with every workout. Tonal provides the convenience of a full gym and the expertise of a personal trainer anytime at home with one sleek system. Designed to reduce your mental load, Tonal is the ultimate strength training system, helping you focus less on workout planning and more on getting results. No more second-guessing your technique. Tonal gives you real-time coaching cues to dial in your form and help you lift safely and effectively. After a quick assessment, Tonal sets the optimal weight for every move and adjusts in 1 pound increments as you get stronger, so you're always challenged. Tonal lets you choose from a variety of expert-led workouts, from strength to arrow hit to yoga and mobility, to keep you coming back for more. For a limited time, go to Tonal.com to get $500 off your Tonal purchase, plus a free 4-year warranty. That's Tonal.com for $500 off, plus a free 4-year warranty. Tonal.com.
It is. And how, she had seen him at the gym with her ex-husband when they were still together. And she and her ex-husband submitted him for The Bachelorette for Claire Crawley's season, because he was like, no, I don't want to do it. And they were like, you know what? Let's just submit him without telling him. So he was supposed to be fully on Claire Crawley's season of The Bachelorette, but the pandemic hit. And so they all had to come home.
Oh.
Yes. And then she was separated from her husband, got divorced, and then they got together. There's his whole family history as well. His sister was married to Larry King. His father was the manager for the Osmonds. And yes, it's wild. There's so much. I'm telling you, and this is just one. And the more I was looking,
right. And that's the thing I love about you, Caitlin, is that for people, like, there is so much drama under the drama that I had no idea about. Caitlin was sending me her TikToks and stuff because, like, I'm elderly and that's not where I'm the greatest on TikTok. But she's sending me these videos and I was like, there are meta layers of drama under the drama. And what you just said with one cast member, that is such an interesting point. It's like all roads lead to Bravo, number one.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
number two, that is just such a fascinating, like, pop culture spread of events of, like, Larry. So Brett's, who was married to Larry King?
His sister. And then on top of that, I mean, it's been a while since I looked at all of that specific family dynamic, but I believe there are 6 kids. I could be wrong. I believe there are 6. And also Brett's brother, his older brother, was a pop, we'll call it pop, artist. And he had one of his songs on, the name just went out of my head, Al Pacino, Say Hello to My Little Friend.
Scarface?
Thank you. Oh my God. That song, Push It to the Limit, that's Brett's brother.
You are blowing my brain right now.
Isn't it crazy?
Investigative journalism, that is wild. That is so crazy. That's crazy. And that's why, so there are so many cast members. And like you said, each one of them have their own very complex and interesting stories, which I was starting to understand watching your TikTok videos. So I guess, what I would love you to start talking about is, like, can you explain Mom Talk and, like, your role in it and, like, how, because in the final episode, it's basically the reason you were on is, like, you were brought into it. People were DMing you about stuff with Jesse and alleged cheating rumors and all of that stuff with Marciano from Vanderpump Rules. And so that's initially the video that got you featured. So can you just, I don't know, talk a little bit about that lane and what it is and how you navigate it?
So I'll start with the content they used at the end of the episode. Now, I will say it was kind of actually edited to be a little bit different, surprising, right? To what I did say on there, which was also Jesse has a pretty colored history with life, I will say. And what I had actually been saying, the DMs I'd been receiving were regarding a lot of her history. I have at this point received more DMs regarding her and Marciano. However, I had just seen on Reddit, I was like, Jesse and Marciano, who is Marciano? Because at this point, I hadn't watched Vanderpump Villa. We didn't know at that time that the girls were going on there. Now, what was also interesting is I wouldn't have said a word if I didn't happen to have a friend who was at Tom Tom and Sir and happened to be in the same room with them.
Yes. So you had boots on the ground, trusted confirmation. Because the thing about Caitlin, I need people to understand, you're not just a gossiper. You talk about stuff that you will know to be accurate. And that's one thing I appreciate about you is you're not just trying to start shit and hit a bee's nest. You're really, people come to you. You get information, you're in the industry, as they say. And so you get access to hearing all of this kind of information. That's interesting.
I do, yes. And I do receive a lot of information. That said, I also tell any person who sends me a DM, look, I will not repeat a single thing ever that you don't give me explicit permission to repeat, because I feel like sometimes this is what, especially ever since the second season came out, the number of people who have known these women or their husbands for years and years and years, it feels as though a lot of them almost need to vent to someone who gets how crazy it is. And it's like no one in their life really gets it. And it's hard to explain, just like how, I don't know, if you're looking at your phone and you see Sheena liked one of your posts, it's hard to find someone in your daily life who's going to be like, oh my God, Sheena liked your post and get excited with you in the same way.
Right.
Or that's, so-and-so left a crappy comment on one of your posts and no one's going to get mad with you enough the same way as someone who really gets it. Now, what I also want to preface is that this friend who just happened to be there, like I don't even want to give away their gender, but I almost did. Anyway, this person, I've been on trips with this person even, and they were sending me a message. They were like, Caitlin, I actually am here. And just was in the room with Marciano and Jesse. Forget it.
I was going to say, girl, because I could edit that all out, but now I'm
it's
like,
fine.
The cat's out.
I mean,
Okay.
listen, it's at this point, it's not like I'm giving their name away. She was saying that while she did not see them she did not see them kiss. She did not see that. She was and this is obviously subjective, but it was very much from their point of view that it was very flirtatious, inappropriately flirtatious, and very touchy in a way that it was not like a brother-sister type of dynamic there. And it was also from this person that I found out they were going to be on Vanderpump Villa. And I think because on the original video, Jesse commented, "Oh my gosh, this is so not true, blah, blah, blah." And so I'm not gonna, if she says it's not true, then I'm gonna acknowledge that, So I made a follow-up responding to it. And I said, okay, well then, why don't you let us know you're gonna be on Vanderpump Villa? And I think that may have also gotten the ball rolling on like, okay, I do have at least a little bit more information than seeing a Bravo and Cocktails post that was on Reddit. Now, one of the things that also keeps me from going too far with the things I've heard, because I'm telling you, there are so many things I could say publicly if I wanted to.
Of course.
Right?
Of course. Yes.
That I mean, people just, like I said, they vent and vent and vent. And I'll hear the same stories from multiple people about very particular people on this show.
Isn't that interesting?
And yes. What I can say is that I received the most DMs about Jesse and Demi.
Okay.
I have hardly ever really received any DMs that were not like, actually, this is what they're like. This is the truth about any of the other girls. So,
and I feel, can I be honest, that tracks for me, psychologically speaking, right? So for those of you who maybe haven't watched, season 1 versus season 2, you see very different character development. Because season 2, it seems like people have bought their own bag of bullshit and have just really leaned into being a star and, very mommy dearest, right? I'm trying to be so kind, but yes, right.
Yeah, you know what? We can be honestly kind, and it is Demi, and it's been made clear by the producers in a lot of things they've said without saying it. They put her in the back of the promos. There were events that they did with the full cast with the producers doing kind of like a speaking engagement, and Demi is in the back. And a producer on the red carpet for the premiere party said, you can't let it go to your head. And, as soon as, and he keeps bringing up, he was one of the creators for Bling Empire that everyone loved on Netflix, and it died out after 2 seasons. And that's the thing is, Demi is a fantastic reality star. But at the same time, if you are really thinking you are the star, it's not going to work that way. You need to understand that you can be just as important, if not more important, as someone who's on B team. Taylor is A team. That's it. That's just, the show is about her. This is her life Taylor, and her friends.
It would not exist. I just feel like, to be honest, some of these women's behaviors, I believe, just stem from the fact that Taylor is number 1 guy in the group.
She is.
I mean, obviously. And some people,
I love calling her number 1 guy in the group. Let her take the male dominance.
Yeah. And I love Taylor. So I think she's very misunderstood. But yes, to your point, I think that there is a lot of ego that I'm seeing with certain cast members this season, like Demi and Jesse, that I didn't necessarily see last season. But it just goes to show that fame, it really does have psychological impacts, and it impacts you. Like, even having a certain number of followers on Instagram, it's like enough to change your brain. And then when you're getting exposed to millions, they went from having like huge followings to now millions of people following them. Right. They are in the center of this pop culture zeitgeist moment. And I think that, like all humans, some people are handling it great, like Macy. I think Macy is making the most out of this experience and doing something really great. And then there's people like Demi where it's like, okay, you really are leaning into your villain era. And
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Unfortunately, I see a lot of ego with her because I think a ensemble, you're just as important as a part of the ensemble cast, even if you're not Taylor.
Absolutely. It's kind of just because it just came out. And let me also tell you, the first video I made about Demi, because I'm going to try and save you from people jumping down your friggin' throat the way people did with me. I pronounced her name Demi, like Demi Lovato.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, you're supposed to say it like Demi, like Demetria. So huge. Apparently, there's a huge difference.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm wanting to save you the annoying, because trust me, I think I probably had at least, and I'm not exaggerating, like 500 comments. It's Demi, like Demetria, not Demi. And I'm like, my God, who cares? Anyway.
Okay. Well, this Midwestern girl, I pronounce things crazy. I could not, by the way, the whole season, I could not stop calling Bose Baz. I just kept calling her Baz. Like a Midwestern mom, I'm just like, oh, that Baz, I just love her so much. And they're like, it's Bose. And I'm like, I'm trying so hard. I'm sorry. So it's Demi, not Demi. Okay, great.
Right.
Got it.
Literally, when it comes out of my mouth, it does not sound different to my ears each way I say it. And it's really annoying. Mm-hmm. Listen, I am very protective of my friends, everyone. Don't come after her for how she's pronounced her stupid name. It's not a stupid name, sorry. But
and it is short for Demetria, right? Because when Brett, the one thing that I don't love is like when she's in trouble with Brett, he uses her first name very like Daddy Dearest. Which for me, that wouldn't be like, I have a very strong reaction to that. Perhaps he just means it kind of jokingly, but I'm like, don't do that, bro. Don't do that.
It gave me the same feeling like basically if Jay is, so this is also, let me make this brief. My husband and I are divorced. He is my ex-husband. It was like finalized, but we got back together. So he's not my husband, but he's my husband. That was quick, right? Okay.
Yeah,
anyway,
that
Jay,
was a great synopsis.
Perfect. If he calls me, if he's calling me babe, we're good. But if I hear him say Caitlin, what?
Yeah.
So
like,
it's like that to me. I'm like, what are you mad about? You know what? Right. I don't even know, but now I'm mad.
Right. Don't you call me by my given Lord's name. I don't want
that. No. But yeah, now it's like, in the way, and I'm dying to hear your thoughts on this. Mm-hmm. I feel that, and I've also heard other people say this, so I can't take full credit for this thought. But the way Demi and Brett speak is as if they are incredibly therapized, and they have a deep understanding of therapy. Yes. And yet, it's quite clear that they don't.
Yes. Okay, so let me please speak to that. I've been dying to speak to this. Mm-hmm. I heard someone say that online, and then I feel like someone else on the show mentioned that, and I was so happy it was brought up because I couldn't agree more. So we are in this lane of the world where people know enough about therapy terms to weaponize them without actually utilizing them appropriately, number one. And number two, to weaponize therapy terms while still maintaining some personal behavior that is really not acceptable. To me, that tells me always that there's a disconnect here between thoughts, actions, and behaviors, which usually indicates to me that there's something else going on under the surface that people are trying to, I guess the word I'll use is obfuscate. That's been my favorite word lately, which just means
I like it.
They're trying to hide their kind of full intentions and things like that. And I definitely think, Demi, I'm going to have to think about this every time I say it now.
I know, I don't mean to mess you up. I just wanted to save you the exhaustion of the call.
No, because I couldn't have heard one more comment about how I'm saying Bose's name wrong. I'm like, I understand it. I'm human. My brain is broken. I don't know what to tell you. So,
same. We're all a little broken,
aren't we all? Yeah. Welcome to the podcast, Your Bitch Therapist. That's what we're here to talk about.
Yes, it makes us cuter.
Exactly. But so I think that with Demi, there is a real serious, my honest belief, I'm just going to cut to the chase, is that while her behaviors are really egregious and just gross, to be honest, very unlikable, I do believe that they stem from a place of feeling unable to control that it cannot get pregnant. And so I think as a therapist, one of the things that, we have to do is learn to be an empathetic witness without judgment, which is the exact opposite of usually what we're doing watching these reality TV shows. But I just say it as a point of I did not care for Demi this season. I think her ego got out of control. I think that she was a mean girl to a ridiculous extent. I didn't enjoy watching her. I won't enjoy, unless she changes her behavior. I'm not interested in her for season 3, if I'm being honest. But what I can say is that I believe, because she has enough knowledge to be dangerous, she knows how to kind of very politically get people to be on her side. She can be very persuasive. If you're well-spoken and you use good grammar and you have good diction and all of that stuff, you can say anything and people buy what you're selling.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah.
And I think that's her in a little bit of a nutshell.
Yeah. I know she was, it was pretty diabolical the way she behaved a lot of the time. But something else that was diabolical to me was that pregnancy roulette game. Producers,
oh my God,
I need y'all to do better. Listen, we love the tea, the drama, the fun, the all of it, but there are certain lines, and I don't think you have to have ever been pregnant in your life. I don't believe that you ever have to have been a mother or mother figure in any capacity to realize that pregnancy and childbearing is something that needs to be more protected than what that was. I know Layla says that was not and it's just in case anyone hadn't seen it, the pregnancy roulette game, where apparently this trend that was on TikTok, that if a group of women are having a girls' night, they'll have a bunch of pregnancy tests and they'll all go into the bathroom, be on the cute little stick, and they put the test into a bowl and mix them all up and see if anything comes out with a positive, but they don't know who it is. And so to me, even if we took Demi out of it, Macy and Michaela were pregnant. And it was not a time that they were ready to share, because also you have to wait a certain amount of time to share when you are pregnant, just of course to know exactly, for so many reasons, without even going into it, because I don't want to trigger anyone for any reason. But there are a multitude of reasons as to why you are supposed to wait until you're at least 12 weeks. And a lot of people want to wait longer to be sure everything's good, we're all healthy. And for Macy and Michaela, not to be ready to share that with the group, that was horrific. And then on top of that, when you got to Demi, I made a video saying I felt it was absolutely deplorable to have her even in the room with this. And so many people kept saying, well, she could have just not participated.
No.
Okay. So you are expecting a woman who her livelihood is being a part of this group and on this show. There is that group dynamic. It's like she doesn't want to be exiled from the tribe. So there's that. And then to watch her face when she saw one of the tests that was positive, knowing that it most likely was not hers, but she got that feeling for a second of what that feels like to get that positive test. And it gives me goosebumps all over my arms because it made me sick.
I literally have them right now. And so the reason is because for me, so I lost my ability to have children after ovarian cancer when I was 17. And so I understand the grief of watching your friend group, right, have kids, especially in Mormon-based Utah, where it's not, you're expected to not only have kids, but have a whole brood of them, which, whatever people want, that's fine. But I felt Demi's grief. Demi, damn it. I felt Demi's grief emanating from her pores. Those sobs of grief, I'm not kidding. I don't really enjoy her, but I cried with her because
Same.
I put myself in that scenario where I was like, imagine if for a second,
I know.
like I would never know what that's like to be able to get pregnant and have a baby, but then to see, and then my brain is like, wait a second, could this be? No. I used to have dreams that I was pregnant and I would wake up and I would just like cry and be grief stricken. And so I think, yeah, it was hard. I'm happy now. Things are good now. I'm really pleased.
My heart, now I'm going to start crying. God damn it. It is your bitch therapist, but Jesus Christ. You know.
So I'm so grateful that you bring the point up because it was something that I think was a shitty idea. I don't think anybody should ever do that. And also my question was, why didn't they just not pee on it and just like water it down? I'm like, why? Why did that not happen?
I think that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I do, because I felt also for the women who were pregnant because it stole the joy. And then it also put a lot of shame and guilt onto me for having an emotional reaction, which was and again, was it a very strong emotional reaction? Yes. But unless you understand that feeling, it's, for example, I happen to be an IVF child. And I know I am a very old person to be an IVF baby, but I mean,
no,
literally. Well, there were not, the year I was born, I will not, no, fine, it was 1988. There were not even 3,000 IVF pregnant or IVF births that year. And the previous year, it was like 100 or something. Excuse me. And so it took my parents 9 years to get pregnant with me. And there could have been 7 because this was back when they put, oh my God.
Your mom could have been Octomom or septuple mom or whatever 7 is. I don't know. But
you know what? We're both dumb as hell because I agreed.
I'm like, whatever that is, but that is what.
Yes, I'll make a very crude joke that some people find funny and some people don't. But I say, listen, because my parents are very religious and my mom believes she will see those other embryos up there. And I tell her, well, they probably have some black eyes and split lips because I fought my way to the top.
That's right. That's right. We needed our bestie Caitlin to just fight herself out of those, But listen,
there can only be one.
To your point, in the 80s, it's something that, fertility is a really great conversation now, which I love. But back then, for sure, it wasn't. There was much less discussion. There was so much judgment. And I think just your point is that pregnancy and having children is such a personal thing. There is so much grief and tons of emotions around it that I just think the scene itself was I just couldn't stand it. I hated seeing Demi in that much pain. But I think for me, that's where some of her behaviors lie. Because when we feel like we can't control our bodies, which no one can control our body, right? But when you become very aware of that, it creates self-esteem issues. And then when you have self-esteem issues, what happens? You want to try to overcompensate. Well, I don't feel good about myself, but if I can be the leader of Mom Talk, if I can be the new Taylor, maybe I'll feel important.
That's the pain, the option of the choice of if you want to. And also the deeply patriarchy rooted church where it's been that a woman's purpose is what her body can provide. I think that also, once you add that in, it's just kind of...
It adds a level of shame that I feel like I want to move on to the swinging stuff. But to me, it's in the same vein of this, right? When you're taking a subject like sexual health and reproduction and you're making it shameful, shame-based, misogyny-based, not giving people education and understanding, well, then that's when we're going to have these issues where, like, I remember going to pre-Cana classes and they talked about, like, if you can't produce, like, because we were Catholic, we got married in a Catholic church, my husband and I just remember sitting there feeling like, oh, well, great, I'm a lump of shit. I cannot reproduce, therefore I'm not valuable. But obviously I don't internalize those messages. And I think that some of these people in Utah internalize a lot of these really damaging messages. So moving to the swinging scandal, which to be honest, to me, it's so stupid, and I'm going to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
No one gives a shit about swinging. If you want to be a swinger and you want to do it ethically and, healthily, mazel, great, do you. But we have to hear about this nonsense soft swinging scandal because it's so demonized because of the church. And it's like, it's demonized because of the church and in Utah, but like in other parts of like in New York City, that's just a Tuesday night, honey bunny. Yeah. So
though. I think what really sensationalized it was you saw it because the OG three of Mom Talk were obviously Taylor, who founded this whole thing, and then we had Miranda and Camille Monday. And Taylor started out playing into this joke that Camille and Miranda were her daughters and that she was older, and because Camille and Miranda looked so much alike. But you have these three hot as hell moms.
So hot. So
Which
hot.
also, it's like they look like they've not only never given birth, but have never passed a donut shop in their life. And, it's just not fair, but that's also youth. And at the same time, and they're doing these, I'm like, I have never passed a donut shop that I did not love.
Nor should you, by the way. No one should.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I am not, when I am 80 years old, I am not going to look back and go, I shouldn't have eaten that donut. I'm going to be like, hell yes, I ate that donut. And I ate 4 more.
Boom. Boom.
That's it. At the end of the day, I just keep myself as healthy as I can.
But your point, before you go on, your point speaks to how there is this ideal of women. They're all gorgeous. They all have basically like, I don't want to objectify their bodies, but they just have these perfect bodies.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's like they give birth, and then I'm like, how are you witches? What's going on? And so I think that what you're saying is there's that part of this that has these very unrealistic beauty expectations for women. Yes. Please continue.
Especially within the Mormon church, how they really, really uplift perfection. And that's why they get the plastic surgery, and that's okay with them. That's why the women are supposed to be looking like they just snapped back. It's very deep rooted also in the religion. But then for everyone to find out online that and now Camille has maintained she was never a part of the soft swinging, these hot chicks that and also have been added to this Mom Talk group, they're swinging too. And so, it was that very misogynistic mindset that brought that in. And they're supposed to be Mormons. They're not even supposed to be drinking. They can't even have some freaking hot coffee. They're having alcohol. So there was a lot
ketamine, and the rules are really interesting, but we can talk about that at another time. But you know what? You have that key when people in a religion, when there are these very strict, structured rules that just humans can't. It's a setup for failure. Yes. Human beings are not made to be perfect little creatures. We just aren't. It's not possible. And when you set this up in a religion, then you have these people who want to skirt these rules. Like, for example, soaking is one of those, the stupidest thing that I've ever heard of. And just to be clear, so what soaking is in the Mormon religion, right? Sex before marriage is not allowed, but you can insert your penis into a vagina and just lay there and call it soaking. And that is completely okay with God or whatever.
I can't, sorry, my brain went into imagining if I could actually sit still.
Well, right? I mean, like, what an odd experience as well for those of us who have had healthy experiences with sex. It's like, what a bizarre moment. And then I've heard sometimes that friends jump up and down on the bed to cause the motion. And it's like, okay, honey bunnies, we have to really think about the logic that we are using here. But to your point, Caitlin, is that there are a lot of these mores and rules that get skirted, and that I just wanted to say from my perspective is because of the shame of all the organized religion. But please.
Yes, no. I mean, and that's the thing is that's why it was such a scandal. And, on top of that, I think that especially for Taylor, the way to me, and listen, I am just armchair quarterbacking constantly because I'm just fascinated by what might be going on underneath for just people in general.
Mhm.
The way she spoke about herself and especially what went on with Dakota. And I don't know if you're okay with me cussing on here, but
Yes, absolutely.
good.
Do all
Okay. The way she said he came and fucked me, she gave him not only the possessive, but she's saying this in front of her parents, and there's nothing wrong with however anyone speaks in their family home. That's fine.
Mhm.
But the way her parents reacted told me that was not a usual way for her to speak. So she wanted to make it as crude as possible because she also kept calling herself trash.
Right.
And it's to me, and this is also something you will be able to say so much more about than I will, clearly. But in my mind and the things information I've absorbed is that on top of that, because of the abandonment issues with her biological father, and then the way we've seen her mom behave, I feel as though, and this is something I tell myself as I'm raising my son, and I don't even know that this is accurate, but it's what I tend to believe, is that we learn if you grow up in a home with heterosexual parents and you have both a mom and a dad there, because learning styles in my thoughts change for whatever your environment is.
Mhm.
If you have both a mother and a father in the home, I feel as though your same-sex parent is where you learn how to love other people by seeing their dynamic with their partner. And I feel as though your opposite gender parent, no matter what your sexual orientation is, that it's your opposite gender parent that teaches you how you're supposed to be loved.
Mhm.
And I feel as though we got the full gambit whenever her father and her mother, basically the only person who was on her side at that dinner table for Taylor was her sister.
Her sister. The cycle
And
breaker. Yep.
yes,
Every
there
family
you go.
has one. Yep. And I recognized her immediately. The scene that you're talking about was so freaking egregious that so do you want to share essentially, well, what I'll say is the scene was Taylor's having dinner with her mother, her stepdad, because as you said, her biological father is not in her life, her brother, Dakota, a sister, and then I don't know, maybe there was some other people there. But essentially, Taylor is calling herself trash, which she isn't.
Exactly.
But because of the messages that her family has given her, her dad basically says to her, well, you let him sleep with you after, the first whatever. So yeah, what does that make you? And then she says, yeah, I was trash. That's what I'm telling you. And he does this big stupid face, the big jazz hands and this
just
big
saying.
and it was a scene that really caused a lot of rage with a lot of people, understandably so, because it was the moment that I understood why Taylor is the way that she is and why she moves the way she moves and behaves the way she behaves. I agree with what you said. The only thing I'll say is it's not always the same sex versus opposite. Like you have points there for sure. But you're absolutely correct that our parents model everything for us. It's not do what I say, not as I do. Kids only learn through modeling. In fact, if a child gets a message through modeling and a verbal message, they're going to discard the verbal one. And they're going to watch what parents do. And so here's the thing. Parents are human, right? They are not creatures just put on this earth to be mommies and daddies, and they're right. As Lord knows, Caitlin, right?
Some days I wonder if I was supposed to be here for anything else. At least, you know what my son would say? I have no other purpose.
Right. And that's what we all
believe.
grow up believing, that our parents are these perfect people who are supposed to just meet nothing but our needs. And then you have parents like Taylor's parents. And what I'm going to say, I don't know if you've heard this, Caitlin, but I get a lot of DMs that Taylor's parents are very typical Mormon parents. In fact, they're actually on the better side of things, if you could even believe that. And so I think that Taylor is living with parents, or has lived with parents who I think her mom, I don't want to be rude, but she basically got a head transplant after last season.
To look like Taylor.
And the first question she asked was, do I look younger than you? That was the first question Taylor's mom asked in season 2. And so I just think that it's such a good example of what happens when we don't get the love that we need. We spend our lives trying to convince other people to love us in the ways that we need to be loved. And the people who usually do that are searching a bottom, like an empty well, essentially. Dakota is not a well of need meeting to Taylor or I believe to anyone else on the planet. I don't, you know, what are your thoughts on all that?
I barely know Dakota, and you want to know why? Because when he and Taylor are having discussions or they're having fights, arguments, those two will repeat the same phrase like, oh, I don't know. You don't have my back. You don't have my back. Do you have my back? Do you have my... And it's like, my God. And I am convinced that for the two of them, because I don't think they ever resolve anything ever. I believe for them, the fighting is foreplay because they've gone down that train and they've gotten themselves physically so worked up. Well, they work it out together in that way. And I think that's why they never find resolution. I don't think they talk like enough. Well, you know what I'm saying?
You're so right. And here's the thing, they talk too much. And then it's like this go around in circles. But going back to that dinner, Taylor is here saying to her family, I don't feel safe with this person. I don't feel loved and supported. And they're telling her, give him an inch so he can take a mile.
Oh, that's good. Yes.
When the brother said that, I was like, I want to punch you so hard in the face because that is the dumbest shit that I've ever heard. That is the most misogynistic, patriarchal, like male bullshit that I've ever heard of in my life. But so I think the reason why she can't resolve it is because she's coming to her family looking for their blessing. And they're like, we don't give you our blessing. You have to try harder because we don't want people to look at us like we're not good people. So they care more about their image than they do about how their daughter feels. And unfortunately, there are a lot of parents out there who are very much like that. Narcissistic parents. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they are that. I'm just using them as an example of narcissistic parents, especially narcissistic mothers who compete with their daughters instead of being a partner, a collaborator, a supporter. And that is the vibes that I get here.
I mean, listen, I know you're not allowed to say, like, officially, Leanne, her mother is, but yo, come on. I mean, and I also get one, like, after seeing yourself on camera at angles you've never seen yourself at before, you're like, oh my God, that's what I look like from three-quarters of my face. You know, it's natural. And I would never fault anyone for wanting to make any improvements that they consider improvements to feel better. I mean, listen.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you see me walking around with a slightly different face, don't ask me questions. But, you know, I'm very, and you and I have talked about this before, I'm very into attachment theory. I think more adults need to dive into it to understand themselves better. I mean, it's very clear Taylor is anxious attachment as hell. God bless her. And so then when you realize that about someone, it also tells you so much about their upbringing and the type of nurturing they received or didn't receive when they needed it.
Right.
And, you know, it's fascinating to me that you sit there and you watch and Taylor considers this to be her father because he's been there since I believe she was 2 or 4, somewhere around there.
Yes.
But after he had asked her in the kitchen, I just could never imagine my father ever speaking these words to me when she talked about her Halloween costume. Is it are you going to be a slutty cat or
Gretchen Wieners. It was. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I'm so glad you picked up on that because I'm like, when I watched it, it was like a record scratch. It was so significant to me. It was like, what did you just ask your adult daughter if she's going to be a slutty Gretchen Wieners? And there was also this like very judgmental piece about like, don't embarrass our family, you whore. Like, don't, I just feel like they're giving her a lot of these unspoken messages. The messages on the surface they're making her crazy. I call it crazy making, where it's like, well, we're not telling you that you should be with Dakota, but it's like, no, you're definitely telling her that she should still be with Dakota. And I think for me, that's where Taylor really struggles with communication because she's getting all of these
mixed
very
signals.
mixed and no one's effectively communicating. But, I know we're kind of running out of time here. So I want to get from you, what are some of the things that we haven't talked about yet from your experience, whether it's some of these people entering your comment section? There was this whole other situation with a life insurance scam. I don't know if we have time to talk about that, but from your perspective, please, whatever you want to talk about for the last couple minutes.
Okay, well, yeah. So I can talk about the McKenna Gibbons of it all very quickly because that's easy for me to summarize as well. Which, McKenna, you may not know that name off the top of your head unless you had been following Mom Talk very closely from the beginning whenever the swinging scandal broke, which I hadn't been at that time. Now, McKenna was never a part of Mom Talk. She was a part of the friend group. And it's McKenna's now ex-husband who is the husband that Taylor allegedly had crossed boundaries with, as in, I'll say first, on an emotional level within the soft swinging group. Now, what Taylor has spoken on, what actually allegedly happened between her and, again, I have to say allegedly simply because Braden has never actually come out with saying, yes, this was me. So I just, respectfully.
You got to cover your ass, girl. I mean, and be respectful, but also like no one wants to get sued.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you can't draw blood from a rock and I'm a rock.
Amen.
Maybe someday I won't be, but for now, actually, no, I'm going to manifest that someday I will absolutely not be a rock anymore, but no one will ever need to sue me. Okay, now we're going down a whole different train. Anyway, so McKenna and her husband, Braden, and she did confirm they were a part of the soft swinging. Now, McKenna had been saying, listen, I felt uncomfortable with it. I had wanted to stop, things like that. Taylor came in with receipts, proof, whatever. McKenna did too. So it was a little bit of back and forth. And, it was one of those things regarding the receipts, the truth of it all. I don't think anyone but the people involved know at the end of the day with that. Now, McKenna, though, her husband at that time, Braden, again, is the person that Taylor had, and Braden crossed those boundaries of beyond, what they were supposed to be doing for that fun playtime within the group. And also, trigger warning, allegedly Taylor was not sober whatsoever the night that this happened with Braden. So we all know what we call that when someone can't rightfully consent with their whole mind. Yes.
Which I do want to point out, enthusiastic consent isn't just the absence of no. Enthusiastic consent is a model for consent that focuses on a positive yes and actual communication instead of just a no. And so I think that that's an issue that I'm glad that you brought up. And I just wanted to put it out there quickly because again, they just didn't do this correctly. There was no conversations, there was no boundaries, there was no rules. But so
they were like high school kids exploring.
Right.
That's really what it was like. It really was.
Sometimes when there's a substance involved, whether it's alcohol or another substance, that enthusiastic consent, there's real question marks there. But I'm really grateful that you brought that up. Yeah.
And hold on, let me make a note because there's another portion that goes along with the word consent that I do want to talk with you about as well. But McKenna shared her side of the story, mostly going back to her marriage with Braden, where there was a time when he was working at a decent company and suddenly the paychecks that he should have been receiving weren't coming through, blaming it on a reputable payroll company. And she's like, what's going on? When suddenly she gets a knock at the door, it's a floral arrangement and it's for condolences. And she's like, what? And it turns out that they were for someone who had lost their wife. Well, Braden tells her, and they were from his place of employment, and Braden tells McKenna, oh, there's another guy in my department named Braden, same name. His wife isn't well. She's like, okay. Well, not long after that, she gets a phone call from his place of employment, HR, and they're like, how are you speaking to us? And she's like, what are we talking about here? We thought you died. So it was.
She had risen. She had risen.
And on the 7th day or 3rd day, God, see, I
Right.
grew up strictly Christian, private Christian schools, and sorry, Mom. Anyway, and so she was kind of going, Brayden, what's going on? And so the general allegation and question is, was he trying to get some life insurance policy out on her? And obviously her father had concerns because a lot of people went ahead and went to that next step. Was he planning something? Which she has, right, and that's a natural question. There has never been any indication or evidence that he was planning to do any type of harm to her. But that being said, it was a really crazy, shady thing to do. She also discovered that he had been cheating on her while they were on a big, giant family vacation. And, so it really was like this whole thing. McKenna, she really just out of nowhere came out with her side of the story. And again, she was never in the dancing video. She was never a part of Mom Talk. And Taylor really roasted her online for that. But something that I find that's interesting. Now, I know everyone was expecting to not like Miranda McWhorter and Chase.
Mm-hmm.
You could not make me hate them so far. You could not make me dislike them. I think Miranda is precious as she could be. She's
so precious.
Yes.
When she literally committed to the costume to the point where she had her hands on her head and they were claws still. And I was like, you're the cutest person who ever existed, just so committed to the costume. To me, Chase seems like king douche, but I could be very wrong.
Okay, I know, Melissa, you are not a fan of Chase, but let me and I can't take credit for this line of thinking. He's like the Scott Disick of this show. And you have to really fully commit to that in your head. And that's number one. Number two, for me, it's the fact that he and Miranda speak so kindly of each other and so respectfully of each other after this divorce. And it's not just, in front of the kids type of thing. They have each other's backs in a way that I have the utmost respect for, because I know what it's like after a divorce. And thank God there was no camera and microphone in my face.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine?
I mean, you would not have been hearing me speaking, and they make funny little TikToks together about co-parenting and things like that. That's where, to me, I have so much respect for both of them, because it's just so unusual that unless it's like this wildly big, movie star, television star who's gotten a divorce, reality stars are not sitting there being like, especially in this crew, okay, speaking so kindly about their ex and being so supportive.
Yeah, that's respectable. That's very respectable.
They're very young. They are very young.
Yes. And, that's an important point, too. But so last thoughts, I know you said there was something that you had kind of wanted to come back to.
Yes. The whole thing with Jen and the Chippendales aspect, because this brought me a little bit over the edge. And I was arguing with someone in my comments, which sometimes I do. She sees that it's not just Brett. She sees it's Jordan and this Chippendales dancer. She is going no, giving physical, verbal no signals, points at Zach. And then their whole thing, and these people were like, oh, well, she was like acting like she was smacking their butt. Yeah, because she's a people pleaser. And she was mortified, clearly. And what else was she going to do? She was told it was going to be a different story. And additionally, one of my big things that I tend to really emphasize, that I think I wish more adults would embrace, is that it's okay to change your mind. And she changed her mind. And one of the ways I try to emphasize, changing your mind, listen, you will, now let me think of a different thing, because I don't know if you want me to bring up anything politics. Because I started out one way, and you and I both know where I am at this point, but I started out a completely different way when I was very young. Right. And so I want people to really understand when it comes to consent. you can change your mind. And she did.
Yeah.
And you know what they could have done was let her scoot her little chair back and do the performance for the whole room. And I'm so sick of hearing everyone berate Jen for changing her goddamn mind. It sends a horrible message. And it makes me nuts. And so what if she agreed to let Brett come in and do this? I'm sure to me, in her mind, she was probably like, Brett's going to look like a dork coming in doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I feel, because it brings me to the almost like a reunion. It was the closest thing we were going to get to a Secret Lives of Mormon Wives reunion that they had on Entertainment Tonight. And listen,
I saw that. It was wild.
That man was living for every moment, and I would have been doing the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But Caitlin, so I appreciate, you being here. I feel like we still have so much to talk about, but listen, such is life.
Yes.
I love your point at the end. It's such an important point to end this podcast on, which is we have the right to change our mind in the second, in a moment, right? We don't know how you're going to psychologically, emotionally respond to something until you're in the moment. You could agree to do something. In the moment, your nervous system feels off. You feel this doesn't feel right for me. I need to change that. And we have absolutely every right to do that. So I am so grateful that you brought up those points. Caitlin, I just adore you. Thank you for being here. Obviously, you're going to have to come back to talk. We didn't even scratch the surface. So we're going to have you come back. But please tell everybody where they could find you.
Yes, and I adore you, and you're going to have to come back on mine as well.
Hell yeah.
You can find me Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Besties by Caitlin, and it's spelled Caitlin. I do tend to rant and rave, and when I do my recaps, it might turn into like a one-woman play, but I do feel like I'm talking with the besties, so even though I'm shouting into the void, it's a lot of fun still. I like to have some fun guests like Melissa on, and yeah, you can listen to Besties by Bravo podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, but also it will be becoming Besties by Caitlin because it's the community of besties, and our girl Melissa here is a part of that community.
Hell yeah. So please, please, please check her out. Besties by Caitlin. She is freaking crushing it. And of course, please don't forget to check me out. You could check me out, Your Bitch Therapist, on all social media, on my Patreon. You can get ad-free on YouTube. Full video of, and you will have to watch this video because Caitlin, you are so beautiful, my dear. You have to watch this video. You have to see her beautiful lighting. It says in the back, "Hi, besties." It's just such a rich tapestry. I just love it. So please check this video out. Yes, it's just gorgeous. It's so on brand. And please don't forget to give us good 5-star reviews, please.
Yes.
I will ask for that if you are genuinely enjoying this podcast. And so until next time, Caitlin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And to all of you, sending love to you and yours, and ta-ta for now.
Bye.
Disclaimer. Posts are not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide medical advice. Your Bish Therapist is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The podcast, my opinions, and posts are my own and not associated with past or present employers, any organizations, Bravo TV, Greatheart Productions, or any other television network. The information in YBT Podcast and on its social media is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat. Please do not act or refrain from acting based on anything you read, see, hear on YBT Podcast or associated social media. Communicating with YBT via email and or social media does not form a therapeutic alliance. Melissa, operator of YBT, is unable to provide any therapeutic advice, treatment, or feedback.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.